got some great initial burst, but then you don't have a way of dealing with the second life, which I think may be problematic for T1. And that's assuming T1 don't take Wraith King themselves right now.
Remaining.
But then you'd have 5 strength heroes, so it's probably not recommended. So you might run into more problems.
I was about to ask that. I was like, oh, Wraith King, you know, it's not in the pool. Maybe T1 could pick it up though. But then, yeah, it's that issue that you said. It's like, it's not only strength, but it's another melee into Timber. And I think Boom have just set themselves up so well with that Timber pick to sort of make T1 really think about what they want as the last pick, as it is going to be that TA, John.
Yep, you close out with the TA. No easy ways to multiple fraction. I guess Chakram's probably your best bet. Shadow Strike can slowly tick away.
Remaining.
You do have decent hold in the Bane, so I think when it comes down to it, you can pin that TA down. Finding the angle here for Schem is going to be difficult. You could still run that Wraith King here for Boom. I would have said that maybe a Life Stealer would have worked, but I don't think the matchup against here is all time. Go with the Troll instead. I think that's a lot better. Just great damage early on, great scaling, really early spikes as we saw Jackie kind of build up into a fast diffusal. You can kind of shift gears here, go for a Maelstrom instead. And you have the tempo on Boom. For T1, it's kind of similar to maybe their game 1 draft with the PA. I think the TA is going to take its time to farm up. You do have better supports here and better cores to play aggressive to kind of play that 4 protect 1. Give them an angle to find an opening, but I still feel like Boom's got a pretty early lineup here as well, especially with Jackie's Troll. It just comes online a lot faster than the TA.
Can't wait. He's cracking his knuckles, breathing really deeply. Looks like he just can't wait to get into this game number 3. But
remaining.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the Troll. I agree with John. I like the TA as well from T1.
Remaining.
I'm honestly kind of leaning towards T1, apart from the Timberverse, the strength matchup, which could be problematic, but I think T1's got a great draft this time.
Well, you liked T1's draft in game number 1, so we'll see if it is going to pay off in game number 3. I did have a question and I got absolutely distracted. I'm not even going to lie about it. So I'm just going to ask my normal question. That is, how long do you think this game is going to go for, Mike?
Oh, I'll give it 35 minutes. 35 minutes.
Okay, I like it. And what about you, John? Quickly, how long do you think it'll be?
I'll go 5 minutes less. 30 minutes for it. Could go either way in that point, so pretty fast game for either side if they do snowball.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to a fast but hopefully close game as we are heading into game number 3. If Boom are able to win out this game, then they are going to be the king of C. They are going to be taking the grand finals, but time will only tell us. I'm going to head on out of here and leave both of you to the number 3.
We do get into a game number 3 between T1 and Boom Esports set to get underway. John, we may have predicted the time that the game's going to last, but I do hope this isn't going to be the last game of this best of 5 grand final. Is so excited and excitement, Jonathan. I think people are expecting a much closer match.
On board.
Yeah, especially if you consider the upper bracket finals. I think that's a very tight series between the two. It just feels like Boom has managed to learn a lot more from that series than T1 did. I think they do make some good adjustments for this game tree. The TA pick for Gabbi, having a much more active hero for Carl on that Kunkka is going to be a great response, and I think this should allow T1 to find some early aggression, but it really depends, because we said almost the same thing in game 1 where T1 had such a great draft with so much stuns. Boom still found a way. I still feel like if Boom made that game 1 draft of theirs work, this is pretty much more bog standard for Boom, and they should be able to get that done too. It's just a question of whether or not Carl can really snowball to enable Gabbi to find that space to farm.
You know, the thing is as well, John, it feels like if FBZ, if he gets off to a good start, if he gets a few kills rolling, it doesn't feel like you're going to be able to stop him this game. And that's one big fear I have for T1. We talked about their 4 strength heroes in their draft. They're not going to be able to put up with that kind of Timbersaw later on if they do end up falling behind. We might actually have a level 1 fight this time around, as both teams are currently just watching each other. Esports, unsure, but they are both looking to try and swipe the top rune. Jackie's going to move in.
The battle begins.
Is there along with Whitemon. They'll get the ignite out, but it seems like that's probably going to be it. A 2-for-2 trade on the bounties once again, so a very even kind of start to this game number 3. while we're around, we'll talk about the mid lane, John. You've got Carl there on the Kunkka this time around, so he takes that away from Rampage. Rampage will go back to the Queen of Pain. We've seen this matchup many, many times, and it's not actually too favorable here for the Quap. I feel like the Kunkka does actually do a great job.
You just out damage the Quap. You don't expend mana for your damage as well, whereas the Quap is going to need to balance between Shadow Strike or the Scream of Pain. Rampage does opt for the Scream of Pain to clear out the creep wave, and I think that's probably the better build. I think the best success we've seen Quap is more of a Scream of Pain build comparison to Shadow Strike, so I'm keen to see how Rampage goes. But he is getting some good harassment, though. Level 1 for Kunkka is not great here.
Yeah, this is a lot of harassment out onto Carl, and to be fair to him, he does have a Fairy Fire, so he probably would have been okay, but Rampage certainly trying to get the damage up before those levels do come up on Carl. I suppose while we have a chance, we should have a look at the other lanes as well. Look at top lane, we do see Jackie and Tims there with Zephyr and Cuckoo, and now they start to get aggressive. Cuckoo copying a fair bit of damage there. I suppose this is not going to be the easiest lane in the world for T1 either.
Yeah, and I like the shift out here for Boom. Having the Pangolier up top instead of the Bane gives you so much wave clear up against the Boris when you do come out, and a lot of aggression. Control can play fast with the slowest he has on the whirling axis, so you can't actually just run up and force a trade here. It's a bit scary for T1 to look to be aggressive, so probably seeing Tim's forcing out that TP from Zephyr, he will just go back to his 2-1. That's buying a lot of space for Jackie. Viewer Troll, it's not under too much pressure. Is a bit behind CS. But overall, I think this sets the tone of this lane quite nicely for Boom.
Yeah. There's that final lane as well. You've got FBZ and Skem against Gabbi and Whitemon. I'd say Gabbi should be relatively safe in this lane, at least until you have the Chakram up on FBZ. Skem, of course, making the rotation down to the off lane instead of being in that safe lane here on the Bane. I think that is a smart decision as well for Boom, because against Whitemon's Ogre, the Bane doesn't have too tough of a time of being able to trade with him, and even for that courier, just saving the life of the courier for good old FBZ, managed to get his items, and Whitemon have to walk his way back.
Yeah, and Carl's also dropping extremely low mid. He's going to go for the TP back home. Shadow Strike's running. He TP's barely in time to get some deals off. You're already seeing a bit of the opposite of what we were saying in that mid matchup. Rampage is doing a lot better than the Kunkka there, Mike. Carl, 5 CS, Rampage up at 11, so a creep wave advantage, and he's just constantly going in on the aggressive with the Shadow Strike. Carl does not have the TPX this time. He might take out here if he's not careful.
Gonna have to eat some tangos here, Carl. No, he's gonna be all right. Level 2 Shadow Strike, but it's not gonna be enough damage yet. Like Boom really have a point to prove in this this best of 5 series here against T1. Of course, Matt mentioned it earlier, Jonathan, but you are deciding who the kings of CR right now, and Boom, 1 game away from being able to claim that title off T1, at least before 2 comes around.
Dire's middle tower.
They can manage to pull this off. Still first blood yet to be drawn from either side. Carl again has been getting very low on that Kunkka, and Rampage, he's going to make the jump in. Seeing that small camp being farmed up, he wants to go for the first blood, and it looks like he's probably got it. Carl can't do anything. Rampage able to secure first blood and tips around against Carl.
Oh man, that is painful, but Rampage has been constant with the aggression, just forcing the Kunkka to have a bad time. You were talking about this earlier, Mike, but we've seen Kunkkas actually win this lane. Rampage proving to us that Quap can actually work this lane as well. He's just going against the constraints of the Tidebringer, dodging every single use. Look at Carl, he just comes back in, cops a level 3 Shadow Strike, and already down to around half HP.
The Sep stick onto Whitemon. Skem and Whitemon playing around with each other right now as Whitemon does get the water room there. Gonna be able to walk away, and he will take the down here from top mid lane. There is another jump in onto Carl on that Kunkka. He's in big trouble at the moment as the Shadow Strike's still taking him down, and I don't think he can make it out. He'll try to eat a tango, and that actually might be enough. He is surviving through it. Carl is going to survive on 9 HP. As now the chase is back on for Tims this time around on the tango. With the Fire Blast and the Ignite, it should be more than enough to take down Tims. And it will be.
And to get some punishment, but that's still a lot of time Carl has to spend back home. And that's a lot of farm Kunkka's missing out on. We talked about what T1 had to do. We expected T1 to emphasize rotations onto mid. Instead, it's Boom, who are looking to be hyper-aggressive to keep that Kunkka down. Already bringing the two supports up here, so they're leaving their side lanes a bit open here, Mike, but you've got pretty independent laners. Troll can just stand back with a range axe form, and Timbersaw is a Timbersaw, so you can just kind of let him solo. I think that's the one strength Boom has. They've got independent cores that will enable your supports to go to other lanes if need be.
A 1-to-1, very slight net worth lead hit Boom. Too much movement across the map yet, but it is beginning as Cuckoo kind of getting grouped up here top lane. They're going to just pincer him in. Drops off the backside. Jackie already just harassing away. Cuckoo though going to try and TP, but the ensnare. On the first hit again from Jackie. For the second time today. Cuckoo, well, he's just going to have to go to the graveyard now.
No TP back to lane as well, Mike. So it's the walk of shame for Cuckoo to head back to that farm. And look at the movements, the wards that we managed to drop while rotating up. They block the camp, they get good ward on the triangle. Zephyr's trying to build up for that TA. This is going to slow down Gabbi by a big amount. No stacks to play with, no catch-up farm later on.
Zephyr now being chased down on the Snapfire. Skem trying to move in for the Nightmare, but is out of range as Carl's going to have a disconnection. Last too long here is T1. And it feels like they're falling into the same trap we've been seeing over and over again. Yapaj still having a great time. Almost top of the CS board, just behind Cuckoo. Feel like the impact from the Quap is going to be quite high already. Carl's level 4, by the way, John, in comparison to the level 6 of Yapaj, so that you've got that problem going for you right now if you're T1. And again, with this kind of draft, I mean, BZ's having a decent time. Gabby's going to take a bit of time to farm up on that TA. Are we seeing the same story for a third time?
Not quite. I don't think it's completely unplayable yet for T1. But now you're going to have to give some catch-up form towards the Kunkka. So he's keeping in some of those large camps. He might take a stack or two if they do get built up. And Doom are in a position to just harass out mid. They've got the siege creep. They don't have the fastest push potential here, but they've got the bodies to commit. And they already force out the early fortify out. So they're just looking to take an early objective. T1's actually not coming in to stop this. Like, the siege creep's going to last long. Yopaj has salves to tank up the tower. So they're going to get the siege creep up for another wave.
Tower is under attack.
They are. That should be the T1 tower to drop. Nothing to protect it right now from T1. Cuckoo's going to try and bring in the dominating creep to try and force them off a little bit. Like, boom. Not going to stick around too long, as you do have Cuckoo now fully rotated over on that Beastmaster, even without the level 6 mark.
Is under attack.
Something that I feel T1 don't necessarily want to be doing right now, is Skem's going to even find out Gabbi in the jungle. Surely he can't get a pick off by himself, as Gabbi does have refraction. Just barely having enough mana for that. I think he only had 1 mana left over after he used it, so time's here for Gabbi. He's going to have to make his way back towards the fountain. Reset for himself now, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on Cuckoo this game to again be able to apply that pressure and buy the space for Carl and Gabbi, because both of them haven't had the best laning stage.
Yeah, they've had a really slow start. I think you are at least happy with the fact that Gabbi hasn't really died, but you're a TA. You need that flash farm. The jungle is still blocked. There are still no stacks. Do spawn at the least, but the catch-up farm, the burst farm, the TA can get in the jungle, it's not built up. So I think all this movement is costing T1 because they're forced to respond, they're forced to check camps, they're trying to stack, it's not building up. Doom's just been on point with what they have to do in this game, in this map, to kind of prevent T1 from building up. And while all that movement comes out, Jackie has a free lane top.
That he does, and Yapaj will take another kill for himself as Whitemon does get caught by Skem. I'd like to remind you, by the way, Yapaj has still not died this Grand Final series, so he is, I believe, currently 22-0 in terms of when you add up all the scores. We're keeping track, John. We're making sure. See if T1 can actually get a kill on him, and I guess that might be the turning point. Just kill Yapaj once and burst that massive head of his right now, because he's just unkillable.
Yep. He's had an insane game in the series. I mean, it was a little bit more back and forth with SMG. I think they did manage to kill off Yapaj a couple of times there, but he has been rock solid in this Grand Final. we've got to see something from T1. I mean, we saw the Kunkka pick. I feel like, again, they could have just committed some early rotations out. Instead, what we saw was Boom coming in with Scam and Tim's early on with a Pangolier. They just rotate mid, block off Carl, force him to TP home, force him to walk back to lane. And that's just put such a massive dent on the Kunkka. Look at Carl's net worth, Mike. 1.9k. 1.9k, only 500 gold above a support on the base.
Like that, John. Me. Like that.
It's a tough game for him. He's just had so much resources committed to him from Boom that I'm surprised T1 didn't think of relieving that lane of it. Didn't think of having a Snapfire rotate in with Kunkka. That's a very scary rotation. X into Cookie is just so deadly, and they just never got it.
I love our observers and production team. I love what they're trying to find across the map. I mean, obviously Carl's having a hard time in this game with a face like that, John. Look at that. Not the prettiest one I've ever seen on that Kunkka. Very, very nice. Thank you, production, giving us something to talk about while we do have this pause ongoing. With you, John. I mean, 1.9k net worth as a mid Kunkka, still level 6 compared to the almost level 8 Yopaj. It's pretty damn problematic. It does feel like, again, the pressure is going to be on Cuckoo and the two supports. To get that pressure going. Gabbi and Carl, both known for being a little bit greedy. They're going to need that space.
I think at the least here for T1, you're going to need to get Zephyrus leveled up. You want the kisses. You want to play with Warrior kisses, find the kills, get a push. That's how T1 gets some early aggression going their way. They already have lost their bot tier 1. The push coming out from Timbersaw's not the fastest, but he has a massive creep wave, and he's just tanking up. Vanguard already up for FBZ, sub 10 minutes. So he's a hard one to kill off, even with the physical output of, say, a TA. And this is the point where Timbersaw just feels unkillable. He's just going to play tier 2, tier 3, keep tier 2 pressured, force a response out, good force fire as well to protect that creep wave. It actually forces out the board from Carl to clear out those creeps.
He's got to do something, and John, this is not something you want as T1. Like FBZ, he has not been forced to rotate top to defend the top T1 yet. He might have to go now, as Zephyr has begun and Cuckoo is there, and well, there's the TP in from FBZ. Sit here and respond to that now, and I think Carl gave the call over, like, listen, I don't want to throw boat onto a creep wave like that again. Please force this guy to go top. I can't deal with the Timber right now.
And that's a good amount of farm coming up for Carl, at the least. You know, he's at 2.6 now, so a good injection from the 1.9 we saw from last. But look at the position of Boom. They're in that jungle, they've got a good forward ward, sentries are dropped, Whitemon doesn't have the arms, but he could be punished for moving up.
Watching him very carefully. Whitemon, he does have help though. Yeah, a decent fight here for T1 if they choose to take it as Tim's. Gonna be slowed up, but does swash away. Still, the Ignite slow is quite high. Fire Blast will be there now. Carl, he misses the torrent.
Radiant's top tower is
Well,
under
there's no
attack.
excuse for that one, John. I don't know how you missed that. Maybe the Fire Blast was just a bit too early and Carl was trying to predict the movement of Tim's.
Yeah, I think it looked like a prediction, or maybe it's just one of those things where the vertical hitbox, the perspective casting onto the low ground on the ramp is pretty hard. Does happen sometimes. They're making a play on Jackie here.
Does have Battle Trance. This will be a massive turn for T1 if they can get it. And they'll pop the Mortimer's Kisses. Battle Trance has been expended, and now the rest of the team are making their way over for Jackie. He's already so low, and they just want the one-tap kill. Jackie, he will go down the Scatter Blast, and now the Sonic Wave out Yopaj. He's going to get Zephyr, and it looks like they've got Whitemon. So it's still a decent trade, as long as Carl gets himself out of there. I think T1 will probably be satisfied with that.
You'll take it. You kill off the cost one, you're getting some gold in onto Carl. You have to consider what happens across the map though. They've left FBZ once again, he pushes in the top tier 1, and he's just applying pressure. Beastmaster's actually not pushing like, and you called it out earlier, but this Timbersaw can just clear out those dominated creeps, clear out the boars, and Cuckoo's actually just forced to be the one defensive. It's not the Timbersaw being defensive, it's the Beastmaster having to hold his towers alive here.
It is. T1 is kind of riding out the storm as it is, but I don't think the storm's even really started yet. Boom Esports, they've been grouping up a little bit, but not crazy amounts yet. How's Gabbi?
Radiant are
Too
scanning.
badly, just ahead of Jackie right now, so it's good news for T1. Once you have that Desolator up, Gabbi can start to get involved, and well, especially once you have the Blink BKB up, then you're certainly getting involved. Skem be spotted here by Whitemon, but they'd love to go onto your Purge. Problem is, he's going to be perfectly fine with the support there of the Bane. So instead they'll come back in onto Whitemon, see if they can burst him down your Purge. A very aggressive blink in. Cookie's way off the mark, but they roar him up. They just want to go dead, and it looks like this might be the first death for your Purge, and they get him. Gabbi will take the kill, and that's what you wanted to see there from T1.
Yeah, they get the kill. They commit a lot of resources for that, but it's worked well. Yopage's first death in the series comes out here in game 3. So he doesn't have a perfect series. That would have probably been a record in a best of 5, never dying. If Yopage ruins himself, T1 doesn't manage to get that victory. It will pay off. But, boom. The smoke up. You have a roll and grip ready on Tims and Skem, so they could actually look to make a play here onto Gabbi if he's not careful.
The Fiend's grip is up, Skem.
Dyer's top
Trying to
tower
ignore
is under
Zephyr, but I
attack.
believe Zephyr did spot him out there. Still ward being dropped to give the vision. Will have to go to the snap fire though as Skem. Stick around for Gabbi, but in the end will not be able to find as Yopage. Not playing around, does throw out the Sonic Wave. At least for Zephyr though, you allow Gabbi to get out, and that's still going to be a decent feeling here for T1.
Find a support kill, you're giving Yopage something for his death wall though. And you're clumping up as 4 now on the side of Doom. You're playing top, you're giving Jackie
Radiant's
space to
top tower
farm.
is under
His
attack.
Maelstrom's almost done, so he can start to keep up with Gabbi's pace as he is still farming naturally a bit faster here. And you might be at the point where you could think about Roshan once you have, say, the Maelstrom. So they could kind of set up for that. I think the state of the map is still pretty bad for T1. They haven't been able to take a tier 1 tower at all,
Dyer's
and
bottom
they've got a
tower is
Beastmaster.
under attack.
Like that push you expect with that hero is just not coming out. FBZ's done a good job of protecting every single tier 1 by rotating to where Kubu's at. So I think we need to see T1 somehow take a fight and then take an objective. Open up the map more. Start being aggressive with your 4 heroes because they are starting to get pretty strong. BKB is still a way off here for Carl. That might be holding them back. Boom though will go for a smoke play.
They will. And smoke up as FBZ on the front line. Careful not to pop that smoke underneath that Hawk. Still Zephyr is going to break the smoke of FBZ and immediately T1
on board.
seem to want a bar of it. But they have smoked up on their own end of things, so T1 might be able to try and initiate in a way that they want to. Find Skem, Carl, he's going to land the X. Won't grab the torrent though, instead Nightmare will be there, though Skem does get stunned up, but again it's a very weird team fight from T1 thus far, as they haven't really fully committed. And
Radiant
Boom Esports, they will fully commit if they want to. And that they do, they start to move in. Not really finding the target yet as FBZ, he's going to be targeted here by T1. A lot of HP being removed right now, but Nightmare is there from Skem to try and save his FBZ. He is still alive. Tim's meanwhile will come in now with the Rolling Thunder. It's going to be a nice stun out as Jackie does move in with that battle trap on the Cuckoo. They're throwing a Whitemon, and now that Sonic Wave out Chapoy. He lands on absolutely everybody as they even find Gabbi. And FBZ, he eventually goes down, but it took so long to get that done. And in the time that it did, Tims, he got a great Rolling Thunder out, and it just managed to turn everything around for Boom.
And we talked about this timing, right? Jackie has Maelstrom after that fight straight into the Roche. No roar, no boat, no kisses for T1 to contest with. So it's going to be a very straightforward Roshan for Boom. And you just see how much it takes from T1 to force the fight out. They have to throw everything they have. And that's a team that saw without any sort of magical defense. You know, there's no Hood of Defiance out.
Your admiral is on board.
Nothing to protect from magical damage. They have to use all of it, and it still takes a while to burst him down. Boom will temper themselves back. They're not going to force the Roche issue too hard. Respawns are short. But that does give Boom a nice lead. 4K up now. They can just get back to building up on Jackie. They've slowed down Gabbi once more. He's lagged behind now, behind even FBZ. You need more time for that TA to start building up here, Mike. Desolator's still coming out. Blink's gonna be there. You really need a BKB, and even with a BKB, Boom has the grip. But it's still a bit risky for Gabbi to come up front if they can't find the Bane. And Skem's gonna have to really put in the work to find that proper position in these fights to go against that Storm.
Into the boat, but the Intercept are going to keep Chapoy alive, so instead they'll have to try to slow down FBZ from rushing forward. They found Zephyr. And that Snapfire.
No good. No.
There you go, there's a Snapfire gone. Boom Esports not losing anybody here as they seem to want to move up top lane. Maybe even go mid. Carl, he showed up again, and FPC was so confident moving into that corner, and they just blow him up. He has no HP right now, as Whitemon will be the third to
Radiant's
go.
middle tower is under
It seems
attack.
like a very, very similar story, Jonathan.
Dire's bottom tower is
In
under
the last two
attack.
games, as Boom are not slowing down anytime soon.
They're just on the aggressive, and this time around, this should enable them to take that push. Find 2 nice kills. For T1, this is not the worst situation to be in. They've got kisses, they've got ward, they've got both on the respawn. Well, a bit delayed, but this is a fast rush shot. If T1 wants to contest, they have to run up now, get the kisses off, and they're going to be rushing up for that smoke.
Try. Roshan's already so much off. They're not going to be able to make it in time. The Roshan does bash Jackie once, but in the end, they won't be able to move their way in. On backs against the wall once again. Trying to buy more time for Gabbi to secure that farm up on the TA, but they just don't seem like they want to slow down yet. You see again moving in. T1. Smoke up here for Rampage and Skim to boot, so they're going to wrap around and maybe even find out Gabbi though. A nice scan from T1 does actually scout out this smoke. Perhaps not going to really work out. Instead though, they can always head mid, where T1 are grouped up by that tier 2 tower. Skim, his smoke, knows exactly where they are. Keep in mind they have that Helm of the Overlord now. Might feel a bit more confident here on the side of T1 to try and fight back. They do have a smoke on Whitemon, but they aren't really choosing to pop it yet. Not confident that they aren't being watched at the moment. Tim moves in and Fire Blast will be there. Tim's though gonna swashbuckle right away.
Radiant's bottom tower
The Ignite
is under
is sticking
attack.
him down. Kim is just gonna nightmare him up, and he might actually live through it as Tim's will TP out, and he's not gonna make it. He'll die in the fountain. Meanwhile, SPC being stunned up, but he's a bit too tanky right now. They're not gonna be able to deal with him. So they get something for their trouble. They got Tim's in the Pango. I mean, it's better than nothing right now for T1.
It's something. Not the biggest kill, but you'll take what you can get. You're also buying some space out for Gabbi to just play up top. So your TA is getting some big farm. Number 2 network has managed to catch up quite nicely, but Jack Boys isn't too far behind. So you're not playing with an item advantage on that flash farm. That is a cause of concern. Bruin can just start grouping around bot now. I mean, they've got this really tanky Timber Saw to tank through the tower. And Jackie's attack speed is pretty up there. Damage is pretty good with the Maelstrom. They will go for the defense here on T1 though.
Is now on Jackie, but do they have that burst damage to really get rid of him? He does have the Aegis anyway, so he's going to wait out the first line. See if they can follow up. SPZ will move in, and now Jackie gets roared up. But where's your follow-up? Gabby's going to try and rush in with the Scatter Blast and Melt, and the cookie they've got Jackie. He did not press that ulti button, and Boom Esports needs to rush the hell away. As Skem now will be chased down. They'll have plenty of vision with that fake grenade. Tim's unable to stick around to help. T1 able to successfully find a double kill and protect that bottom tier 2 tower. And this could be the turning point for the Radiant.
That's a big kill. Pulling down that troll warlord with the Aegis, opening up this mid push that can go really fast with the Beastmaster and the TA Deso. Boom just kind of messed up there. No ult usage on Jackie meant there was no opportunity to fight back, giving them that 6.5 second to respond. And that puts T1 back on the map. Not completely, they're still on a deficit, but not a big one.
Dire's middle tower is under
Got to be a
attack.
bit careful as there are moments where we start to lose power. With the BKBs coming out, FBZ's not going to be doing too much damage up front anymore. And even Yopage's damage kind of disappears with those BKBs, which are forming up. You got a BKB up on Carl already done. Seems that 100 ping is coming out for Carl. 100 ping. Not the worst, but you know, I suppose at this level you'd look for better, Mike.
I mean, it's a grand final of a regional finals, John. I don't think he wants the ping if he can avoid it. We'll see how long it does take for Carl to rectify that issue. 100 ping does make a big difference, John. As a person who does play in the Southeast Asian server from Australia, it's not very fun. Ride through it as Carl hopefully has resolved the issue. Reconnections there at the very least, but we'll find out soon. Nice little picture there of Skem with the cheese on. I don't know what that taunt is meant to be. As a Bane player, John, I never understood why we got the whole block of cheese thing going on, but that's the Bane taunt.
Yeah, it's something. I know what it's in reference to as well, but it's a fun taunt. Don't you enjoy it? Don't you love your taunts?
Oh,
Lovely camera work.
Motion sickness.
There
Here
we go. Upside down goes the Bane. No, this is just the Australia cam wipe. What do you mean?
It's
living upside down. We're in Australia now. Dota 2 Australia edition.
But John, looks like we are still having some little issues here with Carl, so we'll wait it out. We'll see what else the cameraman can find, if anything. That is. Still, the state of the game, John, 7-13, 2K net worth advantage for Boom, but T1 have showed signs of life here, and I did happen to notice Boom Esports has tweeted on Twitter, which is probably going to jinx Boom Esports now, as it has been for the last time around. But T1, I mean, they are showing signs of life, which is definitely a great sign.
Yeah, I mean they're finding openings. They're punishing Jackie for overextending and not having a BKB up yet. And that's just key for T1. As this game goes on, the damage output of Gabbi is going to skyrocket. That is a TA. You give it farm, it is going to get big. There are ways for Boom to manage that. Big one would be, say, a Heaven's Halberd down the line, but we're a ways off from seeing that build up on anyone. You will still have to kind of contend with that TA's damage. And I think this lack of maybe a pipe on FBZ is hurting them up against the kisses, up against the ignites. They've been able to melt down these cores without any sort of magical protection. Something that Boom's going to need to rectify somehow. EKB is going to be coming out for Jack Boys, so he will have spell immunity at the least. But I think FBZ has just seemed a lot less tanky when all those spells are committed to him. He only has a Vanguard, so he's really just blocking off Kunkka right clicks and TA right clicks, but kisses, the ogre damage, the spells from Kunkka are all still really effective. And I think that's where Boom is kind of facing some issues. Once they do get committed and they get caught out by those spells, they kind of just melt. One still has a lot of that burst to play with, so we respect some of that output here. Take your time. A lovely little frog critter there on our camera right now. You can absolutely count the meshes on that model right there. Very nice. Nice little copy paste there as well for Cuckoo. I have no clue what he means by self-care. Maybe this is a reminder to drink water? I have no clue. What is that?
Well, I want to know. I mean, I'm sure someone in the chat's going to know what Cuckoo's saying. I feel like if it's Cuckoo, you'd rather just not know while you're live on stream. So I will find out. We'll ask Cuckoo later. We'll find out what the master has in store here with this self-care. We'll see if he's selling some new skincare products or something like that. By the way, John, shout out to the person who has corrected us on Twitter. He did tweet at me saying that Ogre is actually an int hero, not a strength hero, so he's not that affected by Timberstorm. I was wondering, John, why you didn't correct me on that during the panel.
He still has like a strength gain of 3.3.
Oh, we know, John.
You know, that's pretty much it. It's still pretty painful, I guess, but it's not as bad. I mean, we're still fixing up the beat. We're gonna be stuck for a bit of a longer pause here, Mike. He's still doing copy-paste self-care. What is that, Cuckoo? What?
Does this hurt?
What do you mean self-care? I mean, yesterday we saw this guy chomping away in Skyflake, you know, and he offered me, yeah, you know, like crackers. It's like crackers here in the Philippines. And I tweeted at him. He offered to buy me a month's supply. So now Cuckoo's been promising. He's been promising that we'd go to Okada. Remember that? Eat around there, have a good buffet. And now he's saying he's gonna get a month's supply of Skyflakes. I'm not expecting it, but I appreciate the sentiment from Master Cuckoo.
Why is it every pro player out there is inviting John X Fire to dinner all the time? And speaking of the devil, there he is, Master Cuckoo. And shout out to Cuckoo with his, I believe, $500,000 Filipino pesos PC. Yeah, it's pesos, ladies and gentlemen. It's not USD, relax, it is pesos, but 500K, Jonathan, on the PC. Looks very nice.
Keep it PMA, keep it PSG.
Yeah, it does look lovely, and we also saw his lovely, I believe that was his lovely wife there as well. Having a good time. The alt chat right now that you can't see, it's getting a bit weird. Gabbi was asking for pause time. Skem says Tim's doesn't want to, so he's blaming Tim's. And Gabby's like, if it's a no, he's gonna spread a video around. And Skem's just laughing at it. Gabby is saying, what the fuck? WTF, this Tim's? And Tim's is just like, go, go. I think the reconnects are there. Take it. Oh, take it. Tim says, this Skem is just blaming. All right. All right. The back and forth there. As you know, I don't think we've raised this aspect too much. There is history behind Tim's and Gabby, you know, former TNC teammates. Never really highlighted that, but there's that brothership there. And like, you know, like I've heard rumors that they don't get along in pubs, but it looks like it's all fine here. So I guess people just, you know, love to be like Marites Mike, spreading rumors around. Then again, Mr. Gabby is known as Marites, a very gossip-friendly person. So I guess it's just one of those things.
I really like this frog courier, by the way. Production keeps throwing us back to it. It's just meditating right now, John. It's having a very peaceful time. I mean, generally speaking, you don't want to meditate in a waterfall of lava, I'd say, but he's doing all right.
All you have,
baby
all you have
Roshan
to
as
do
well.
is
And
let
that's an ally, I
me
believe. Very nice. In somewhat of a punk costume.
Yeah, that it is. It's got a little, I don't know what you call it on top.
A monocle,
Is that just a
Jonathan.
cat? No, on its back. No, the actual courier model has like a cat at the back. If our camera
Well, we can't
switch the view.
Well,
There it
Neff's on
is.
camera, isn't he? You know?
There you go. It's adorable,
There's
isn't
a
it?
beautiful cat. There you go. That is actually quite adorable. Even though I do dislike cats myself, but I do like the cat
Dislike
jam.
cats?
I'm a dog.
Wait, you actually dislike? No, but you could be a dog person and still appreciate cats. You actually dislike cats. So you're telling me you actively do not like cats. Like if a friendly cat went up to you, you wouldn't pet it.
No, I would pet a friendly cat. I don't like those cats that seem to think that. Oh, stop it. Make me feel bad, John. Stop it. How can I say no to that face? Look at that. That is adorable. I'll give you that. But see, the thing is with cats, don't they think they're like the master or whatever? You know, like they want to be the boss. And I don't like that, John, because I'm married, so I already cop a lot from my wife. I don't need a cat as well to be giving me crap all the time.
You're saying that, but you know, Neff's got a couple of good cats. He's a cat guy. So you're saying this while he's doing cameras? Oh, you're gonna have a good time there, Mike. Show his displeasure with your courier every single time we'll cut to his camera. You can see that.
A minute of.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified.
Step lively now. Your admiral is on board.
Dice are scanning. Dire's top tower is under attack.
At least for now, they turn back in onto Whitemon instead. And it's going to be a 2-for-1 trade in the favor of Boom. They only find the position for Pangolier. Not a great feeling for the BKB reveal of T1.
Not best use from that for Gabbi. Much more impactful coming out from Jackie. Do love what Cuckoo's doing here. He is microwaving the Granite creep, so there's no mid lane to push. But Boom can't transition to an objective, and that's holding them back. They will go on the hunt, though.
Gabbi was there. Your Page may have gone a bit too far, but can delay with the Yule Scepter and eventually just blink and TP his way out. Gabbi was still searching around, but is unable to find him. Boom. Well, that next big objective for either side is only that Roshan pit. It's about time you start going around that Roshan pit and just holding the area. You already see Boom doing exactly that. It's T1, they are still a little bit split up, but the TPs are starting to come in slowly for that mid lane. I think especially for Boom, with the way Gabbi's farmed up on this TA, you certainly don't want to allow T1 to be able to secure that Aegis if you can avoid it. Very detrimental here for Boom Esports if they do.
Still 2 minutes until that next rush, so plenty of time for both sides to kind of set up, get some vision out. T1 still clumping around as a team. Let's get control for Bob Jungle, but they are at least cutting off the split push coming out from FBZ. He's been forced to clump up. He might fight around this room.
He's gonna get exiled out of the card and the boat with the Mortimer's kisses. They just throw everything with the kitchen sink at Tim's to make sure he does die. And now they really want Scam on that vein. They'll rush for him. The Nightmare gonna buy a bit of time to Scam. He might be able to walk away, but no, he will eventually burn out. Instead, Whitemon though does drop. FBZ tries to find another target for his team to jump, and the buyback will be there. Rejoin this team fight as they roll right. The HP tool.
I'll be a challenge.
Dire are scanning. Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Find out the hard way that Gabbi was still hanging there. Good use of the wards they've got here on T1. T1, despite taking that loss, he dragged the net worth lead back their way. It's only a 1k advantage for Boom now, so it's growing smaller and smaller. It's all off the back of Gabbi finding that buildup. Going towards the Daedalus next. His right-click damage is going to skyrocket. FBZ does have the Heaven's Halberd. He still has to be cautious up front, but so far, I think the lack of instant burn for refraction is costing Boom here. They just have not been able to pin down Gabbi with the long-duration BKBs. As the fights go on, though, once that's down to 6 seconds, that shouldn't be as big of an issue for Boom.
Start up now, FBZ able to scout it out immediately as you do have T1 in their triangle. They are in position to fight this next Roshan.
Radiant are scanning.
The Beastmaster, you've got so many ways of scouting out the pit and just having vision over it all the time. Boom will just hold the area around to boot. Gonna be a line drawn out. Want to go for the smoke and the big wraparound. Try to get into that Radiant triangle and just surprise T1. Hawk's not going to be able to see through this smoke, so it could be quite detrimental for T1. They do get caught with their pants down, but they smoke up themselves now, and they're going to do a very similar tactic. Boom. They'll be in the Radiant triangle. T1, they run the opposite way, and now FBZ is almost just trying to bait them in with this timber. They are not going to take the bait, however. We're just trying to retake that Radiant triangle, but now they're going to run right into each other. Whitemon, he might be targeted first as he does back off. Tim's pump faked with the Rolling Thunder, but it hasn't really committed it yet. FBZ still sticking around in a rather aggressive position, but nobody's going to make the jump in. Nobody confident enough to try and burst down the timber, and neither side will really commit to an engagement. But I think you might just want to start Roshan.
We're in are available along with a boat and roar, so this could be a bit messy for Boom if they don't find a pickoff first.
Still being very annoying from that high ground. The Yopaj now going to try and dump in and deal with this ogre. Meanwhile, Gabbi looking for a way into this fight himself. Almost getting very low on the Sonic Wave. Will get rid of him as now. Gets with the rolling thunder again. He's going to land on Q2 and now the speed. It's caught out Gabbi. Stem with the tip immediately, knowing there was no way to cancel the feed strip off. And Carl's forced the BKB and just run back towards the base. Boom Esports, they will stick around the tier 2. In fact, they want to dive tier 3 towers. But can they really? I don't think so. He does have that Axe up. He does have the Torrent Storm. They will go back for the mid tier 2 instead. And probably the Roshan after that.
That's just great. Yopaj managed to use that Arcane Rune really well on his Queen of Pain, just constantly blinking forward, knowing that if you take out the Ogre, you take out the Beastmaster with Tims, there's no stopping the grip. And they all need to commit the early point to cut off that gank, and now Roshan's completely open for the side of T1. Still have the kisses, still have the roller. Respawns weren't that long, but they're not in position to progress. They did have vision over the Roach Shells, but they know it's happening, but they have to surrender.
Major shards go the way of Jackie. Does keep the shards, so no. It looks like he wants to give it over to Yopaj. Sonic Boom just very, very handy to have with that blink up. He won. Backs against the wall once again. They've been in this position multiple times this series.
Radiant's
They're not
top
too
tower
far
is
behind.
under
Just a
attack.
7k net worth advantage for Boom. Boom is starting to knock onto that tier 2 top tower. Perhaps even high ground after that. T1 should be prepared to try and fight, especially with that Torrent
Radiant's
Storm up
top
on
tower
Carl.
has fallen.
Things haven't been too smooth this way. SCT lean in. The Fire Blast is up to lock him down with the Mortimer Kisses down the roar, but Yopaj will jump in and try to stop all this from happening. So FBZ has gone. And maybe now you can force the defense really, as Boom Esports cannot fight without him. Tims just gonna roll away. Oh my god. Tims will turn around again. Yopaj with a Sonic Wave out onto 4 heroes. But can they really fight? Wymont's gone and now the feed strip again. It's called Carl and there's no cancelling. What a rolling thunder out from Tims. And that's something you just don't really expect to happen, John. The good old U-turn there from our Pango. It ends up paying off.
That's going to force a couple of buybacks here for the defense. They still have Gabbi, he still has damage, no grip to pin him down, so he knows he can actually get good defense off. And that's going to hold back Boom, but again, forcing one buyback out isn't too bad. Age is still up for Jackie. Still fairly well protected, but they can't commit. So I think overall, T1's still kind of happy with how that goes. They don't lose their high ground, even though they lose their Kunkka. Boom can't transition to a push because they lack 2 heroes. They're buying time here in T1. They're still getting some good farm out for Gabbi. He really needs his full items up. He is going for the MKB instead, wanting to work through some of that evasion, get some right-click speed up to just try to burst down Jackie in the window he has with BKB. Let's see if that will make the impact. I think what we really need to see is Carl to be protected. He cannot afford to die. They need the Torrent Storm. They need that boat with a Rumball to stall out these fights and force Boom into a much longer engagement up against her PA. Target prioritization has been perfect. They instantly just jump Carl if they see the opportunity, pin the Kunkka down, and even though they're costing lives, it gave this Boom a massive opening there.
Scary times, John. Yopaj now with a refresher orb up in that
Radiant are
spot.
scanning.
That's a little scary. Double Sonic Wave, double Shivers, it's just all there.
Step lively now. Your Admiral is
Gabbi.
on board.
Keep up here on this TA. Jackie is working towards that Satanic now, so just wants that extra survivability. Head up top tier 1 and top tier 3 again. Hull gonna try and delay this the best he can, and they've got great ways of doing it. Though it looks like he's gonna move his way up. He's got that secondary life with the Aegis. FBZ may not try to rush into the tier 3. They were prepared last time around. The Roller's Kisses have been extended, and Jackie will lose that first life again. It's a good start here for Team 1. FBZ though pretending to chain in as he does end up not really going in, but Yopaj has with the blink up. Get the wall out. Nightmare's gonna save the boat flight, and Yopaj is gone. No flight back as available for the quad, but T1's going to really fight this one out now. As they're going to try Carl, he's been focused down. Jackie trying to chase him out, but there's so much control on the troll that he cannot really just fight, and he is going to drop. A very rare mistake from our Queen of Pain. The Rampage does go too far, and it does cost the side of Boom quite heavily.
It's a big win for T1. They can look for a bit of pressure on their own now, pushing in some of those tier 2s. No Roshan to play for. So not the biggest loss for Boom, but they definitely overstay their welcome.
Step
I
lively
think that
now.
usage
Your
on the
admiral
first
is on
life
board.
of Jackie was really not ideal. Like, he's just melting to the kisses. There's a lot of magic damage, a lot of control. Stealing has from a mile away the Kunkka and Snap. And you have to respect that. Boom, you're gonna have to find a way to just cut their losses here. Tier 2 are again open, but the people are still a bit behind. Respawns aren't too long for Boom, so I don't expect a high ground to come out here for T1. They're just gonna have to farm what they can, keep building up. Gabbi's really hitting hard
Dire's
with that
middle tower
Daedalus
is under
up,
attack.
shifted once more.
Dire's
He is going for the
structures
Swift
are
one, so you're
fortified.
hitting that point where the TAs are pretty damn strong with the right clicks, and Boom's gonna have to just be constant with this one. Lots of pressure on FBZ to get that Heaven's Halberd on Gabbi every time.
Dire's top tower
Tier
is
2
under
mid gonna
attack.
drop. T1 really starting to fight back now as they head towards that top Tier 2 tower. See another drop.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
One looking very confident now as one of those things you can't really afford for the quad to
Radiant's
just
bottom
die like that
tower
at the
is
start of the
under
team
attack.
fight. Senior Apache does queue up the Aeon disc now just to ensure that he has that kind of second chance even without the Aegis. Meanwhile,
Radiant's
T1 a
bottom
big
tower
smoke
is
up
under
right
attack.
into a double damage room. That could be a very good start to this fight, as now Gabbi certainly wants to try and force the fight. FBZ's going to be the one to break the smoke, but they saw him punch. He'll blink away. Meanwhile, Skem's going to be fine. Jackie, though, is going to get roared up through the BKB, and why much option? They really want that fade, and they top Skem locked down. Meanwhile, Yapash has jumped in. Cuckoo, he gets taken out right off the bat, and now Skem tries to fly back into the team fight as Tims. He's going to drop some food. Meanwhile, Zephyr, though, has also been chased down and locked down here on the Snapfire, so he should be another casualty of war, and he will be. At 2 for 2 so far. You do get that buyback miss from Skem, and he might be going right back to the graveyard as he dies back immediately to Gabbi.
Lasted so long.
Not great news for Boom. T1 now get the better end of that trade.
And that was a very odd mistake from Skem. He just walks forward looking for a D-ward, does not respect the output or the presence of T1. It's going to be pinned down a lot longer than he'd like to. Still, Boom finding some decent trades. They find a core and a support, losing only their 2 supports and a buyback. So I think it's very even in terms of the exchange overall. I think the unfortunate thing for T1 was, with Gabbi blinking in, he got immediately disarmed. Like, FBZ just immediately got the Heaven's Halberd off. That bought enough time for Boom to reposition, get an angle in the fight, and still come out with a trade. Whereas if they didn't get the disarm, with the double damage, Gabbi could have just melted one of the supports straight up and just turned that into a very unfavorable fight for Boom. So quick fingers on FBZ to give that opportunity out to Boom. They hold on to a very small lead. 4K at 38 minutes in isn't that big anymore. It's not any substantial item coming out on any of your cores. I think that's the worry now. You've got a TA who's just very big. Swift Blink's not too far off. You're gonna have the protection of Lincolns down the line here as well, Mike, with Gabbi kind of saving up for that next. And with the Lincolns, that makes it doubly hard for Skem to actually get the grip off, especially if the BKB's running. So I think this game's gonna get harder and harder for Boom towards the late game. They do have the Scotty up and running on Jackie, going straight into the Abyssal next, so the Bashes are gonna be the key thing to work against that BKB. But that's still a ways off. I think T1 with his second wind are actually in a really good position. If this Roche is a quick respawn and they manage to win this fight, T1 could go to the high ground.
Dire's top tower
Does
is under
reveal where
attack.
he is right now, and so does Cuckoo. Boom certainly not looking to go for a fight at the moment, it seems, as these past few fights, they may not feel very confident, but maybe now with the Aeon disc on Yapage in that secondary life and that very low cooldown on that first level, they might find him immediately. Whitemon, he's in with the Ignite. Can they lock him down? Aeon disc already procs, so he's forced to blink away. In the meantime, they do come in from the backside. Boom Esports is still trying to find a way to force this fight. The torrent is going to land on Carl, and it looks like T1 are happy to just kite out. And he, though, chaining right in, trying to force
Safe hop.
It's not
eh?
happening yet. Carl is still just from the side of Boom Esports. Down, will they caught? It's going to be Zephyr on the Viper. In the meantime, Skim has died and Gabbi. He's found into the Boom. They even tell the Snapfire. Now they can look FBZ and the damage up. He's just annihilating the right there. Waving a double Sonic Wave up. Seems to be enough. He's going to try and fight by himself. And here comes Gabbi. He's got the Queen of Pain down. He's all by himself. He'll chain in with... Does get Carl on that kill. It's Gabbi. TA to fight the thing. The Bloodstone hit. Rampage up.
Surprisingly good.
This... comes on. Okay.
That movement.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified. Dire's middle tower has fallen. Dire's middle barracks are under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen.
Must be drilling.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
T1 victory.